This would be very helpful to the students who will be studying agricultural economics. This involves agricultural economics involves irrigation in India, which is covered in the topic development of agriculture. So let's see basically what is irrigation and what projects we have and how it is dealt with in India, or why exactly there is a need for irrigation in India. As we all know, water is indispensable for agricultural production. So these are the basics that we know, that you can't grow anything without soil or water or sunlight. And now we see that in areas where there is plenty of rainfall and water is well distributed, there is no problem. So the problem arises when there is scanty rainfall, and there it becomes necessary for us to provide with artificial source of water or irrigation facilities. Usually what happens is, if we don't irrigate a land, the entire crop can fail, or sometimes when there are famines or when there is a drought, people suffer because they're not able to save their crops. So the entire, their efforts, their hard work is just wasted, because though they have worked, for months together to bring this produce, at the right time when we are not able to provide sufficient water for the crops, there is failure of crops. So if we can provide sufficient water, then we can think of having maybe double crops. Sometimes it's also possible to have triple cropping, and there would be a rapid increase in agricultural production. So for this, it becomes necessary for us to provide with proper irrigational facilities. So what are the different methods that we follow for irrigation in India? We all know from decades we have been having wells, we also have canals, we have tube wells, we have basic rivers and ponds. So there were different methods by which we would try to, store water and try to keep this water, preserve water and make use of it. So dams would be constructed, reservoirs would be there to save and protect this water or conserve this water so that we can use it judiciously. So government started these irrigation projects to provide sufficient water to our agricultural fields. So here we had this classification of irrigation projects into three types: minor irrigation projects, medium irrigation projects, and major irrigation projects. So during 1951, the criteria here was the amount of money that was invested for these projects. So government would allocate certain funds based on the amount of money. So what would be the cost incurred for production of these uh, multi-purpose irrigation valley projects? We would classify them as minor, medium and major irrigation projects. So when the amount of money is less than 25 lakhs of rupees, such irrigation projects would be called as minor irrigation projects. And when the amount involved was somewhere around 25 lakhs to 5 crores of rupees, it was considered as a medium irrigation project. And when the amount of money was more than 5 crores of rupees, such projects were called as major irrigation projects. So this went on for some time, and again there was a change that brought out. In 1978-79, we changed the classification pattern and the criteria was also changed. So a new criteria started coming into force, and here we see that the amount of money is not important. It is the culturable command area, the area that would be used for culturing or that was used for growing of crops was the criteria. So here we find that if it is a minor irrigation project, then the area would come up to 2000 hectares. So if the area increased from 2000 to 10,000 hectares, it was considered as a medium irrigation projects. And if the amount increased to more than 10,000 cultivable areas, when your hectare increases to beyond 10,000, then such irrigation projects were called as major irrigation projects. So though the naming is same as minor, medium and major, the first criteria was based on the amount of money. So the second criteria we have is based on the hectares of land that is culturable. So this was a change that we see. So the same thing, I've just put it in a form of a table where I'm trying to show the two different ways of classification. So let's see what are the methods of irrigation. So we all know we are irrigating our lands, giving them water. So how is this method basically done and what are they? So basically irrigation is of two types, namely we have one, the traditional methods, and two, we have the modern methods. So then what is the traditional method that we see? So irrigation, when it is done manually, so whether it's me, I and you trying to pull out water and make it available to our agricultural fields, such kind of, provision of water is known as traditional methods. So the farmer here is taking out the water and trying to provide it to the agricultural fields. So this he does by pulling out water from wells. He's also doing it from canals. Maybe even he can use animals. You have your cattle which he is making use to take out the water and try to distribute it to the farming fields. So this kind of a method where animals or human beings are involved to take out water is known as traditional irrigational methods. And this is quite advantageous also because you don't need electricity, you don't have to make use of your pump sets, or electricity is not needed. It's just physical activity by a human or an animal where you're trying to take out the water. So it's quite advantageous because it is very cheap. But one disadvantage that we see here is there is a possibility of loss of water. So there are chances that we may lose some water or there is water wastage happening. So the kind of examples that we give for traditional method would be your pulley system or a chain system, or when you have your animal rotating trying to take out your water. So moving on, we have surface irrigation. In this system, no irrigation pump is involved, and here water is distributed across the land by gravity. And we have localized irrigation. Here in this type, water is supplied to each plant through a network of pipes and a low pressure. So it's just that wires being connected or the pipes being connected to make the water available. We have the modern methods. We all are quite familiar with this. That is the sprinkler system and the drip system. So sprinkler, as we know, it is a system where it is making use of this sprinkler that is available to provide water to the crops. Here the water scarcity is so much that you want to conserve water. Now what we exactly do is the pump is connected to the pipe. Now this creates the pressure and the water is sprinkled through the nozzles of the pipe. So I think this is quite familiar to all the people, because most of our parks and most of our fields, we see that this is the kind of water supply that is provided now. So there is one, you're able to reach the entire stretch of land, or the entire area is irrigated. You're supplying water. At the same time, you're not wasting it, because that nozzle and with its pipe, you're just trying to, when it starts wobbling, you're able to spray to the entire stretch of land. And coming to the drip irrigation system, as we all know, as the word itself is telling us, we are supplying water drop by drop to the plants that we have. So how do we do this is, we are connecting the pipe, and while connecting the pipe runs through this entire system of plants. So each plant, at every point of the plant, you have these drops being formed, or a hole being formed, so that the drops of water fall there. So you're connecting these pipes, and there you have a hole at each point of the plant. And when you just start your water supply, exactly where you have the hole, the water starts dropping. Drop by drop, the water is given to the plants. So here you have conservation of water, there is no wastage of water. At the same time, you can monitor and see to it that you are giving water throughout the day, or you're giving it for a longer duration, and the quantity is controlled. So this again acts as an advantage. So let's see the importance of irrigation. We find insufficient and uncertain rainfall adversely is affecting agriculture. Droughts, famines are caused due to low rainfall. So irrigation will help to increase productivity even when we have low rainfall. So what exactly is happening is, um, you know, we are trying to protect our crops as much as we can. So when there is a failure of rainfall, we don't want the failure of crops to take place. We are trying to provide artificial source of water. Only when we are prepared, we can provide this, so that we can increase our productivity. Then further, we see the productivity or the irrigated lands is higher as compared to the unirrigated land. And we see that multiple cropping was not possible in India, because the rainy seasons is specific in most of the regions. So here the climatic condition is not supporting. So people don't cultivate throughout the year. They're quite comfortable having just one crop at that particular season. And irrigation facilities, when brought into these areas, would make it possible for them to grow more than one crop. So most of the areas we can think of having multiple cropping. At the same time, we see that irrigation has helped to bring most of the fallow land under cultivation. So those lands which we had just left it fallow, not utilizing, now when we are able to provide water, when you are able to irrigate them, they can also be brought under cultivable area. And we see that irrigation has stabilized the output and yield levels. So when we know we are able to provide water, we know there won't be loss of production. What is happening? We are stabilizing the output and the yield levels. So then, don't we have any problems or issues when we come to irrigation? Now, irrigation should be optimum, because our irrigation, should always help the farmers and not create any kind of problems to them. Because if you're oversupplying or overdoing anything, there can be a possibility of spoiling the entire crops, because anything or too much of anything is too bad. So if you're, just because you have water doesn't mean you provide excess of water, because that leads to water logging. So when you have that happening, you will lose your crops. So when certain crops don't require excess water, by doing it, we are losing the crops. And it can also increase the salt concentration, and uprooting is possible, which is again dangerous because as roots can't withstand standing water. So instead of helping the farmers or helping for increasing the agricultural production, when there is excess supply, it can also create problems. Sometimes we see there is heavy siltation of the reservoirs of major dams, which reduce the storage capacities, and they become incapable of absorbing the heavy floods. So a disastrous fallout is the degradation of the soil in the command areas of irrigation projects, that is mainly due to waterlogging and soil salinity. So we don't want this to happen because our intention is to provide water to farmers and the agricultural crops. So when we move on to canals, again, this is again another form of irrigation that we have. So canal irrigation has also contributed to land degradation. It's not that it only happens in dams and reservoirs. This is so possible even in canal. So the groundwater table we see rises due to accession of applied water to groundwater, and there through deep percolation from unlined field channels, distributaries and main canals and restrictive drainages all have done, damage to the construction activities. So we have to be very careful when it comes to even canal irrigation. So then how can we have better use of water? So the emphasis was on or is on minor irrigation works in the recent years, which is worth nothing. Groundwater development is also part of it. So minor irrigation schemes, besides being an instant and a reliable source of water, also helps to control waterlogging and salination in canal command areas. So this has been quite helpful. Now again, states have taken up on-farm development work in all the command areas and are introducing ward bundling or intermittent water delivery methods. This will reduce, the water application while increasing farm production. So we are just trying to control water levels so that we have more productions happening. Again, coming to sprinkler irrigation, we all know it is water efficient and has been introduced in canal integrated areas of Haryana, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. Drip irrigation we see has been encouraged in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Tamil Nadu for fruit crops. So let's summarize as to what we have learned or discussed in this particular video. Here we all know that water is a very essential element or a component for agriculture and for farmers. So this is very precious resource which has to be judiciously used by the farmers. So when there is excess of it, there is a problem. When there is a shortage of it, there is a problem. So to balance this, we need irrigation. So when there is shortage, we need irrigation facilities. So what is it? What are the types that we have in irrigation? Like I said, minor, medium and major irrigation schemes. The methods that we discussed, whether it was the traditional method of taking out the water or the modern methods of pulling the water, the importance of it and the benefits of irrigation. This video gave me immense pleasure making it for my students. I hope my students would be equally benefited by viewing this video regarding agricultural economics and irrigation. Thank you.